On the last episode, we covered close encounters of the first kind, which is your quintessential sighting of something you can't explain in the air. You see a UFO in the sky. Pretty standard close encounters of the first kind. Close encounters of the second kind might be a little more challenging to talk about, not necessarily to talk about, but essentially to prove, more so than any of the other designations. First kind is simple, you just see something and you have to take it from there. Third kind, which we'll get into on a later episode, and fourth kind have their own little challenges. But close encounters of the second kind, if you go by the textbook definition of it, is essentially where somebody witnesses a UFO and somehow it leaves some kind of evidence or markings that the UFO was there. And you seen it a lot in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when you got your classic the UFO landed in our yard. Now there's these dark rings or dead rings where the UFO had landed, or even in Rendlesham Forest in 1980, where the airmen claim that this UFO was in the forest and left these markings in the middle of Rendlesham Forest. A little lesser to the extent are the cases where people claim that the landing pads or the landing struts would leave marks in the ground to be measured, and you could see exactly where this UFO landed, like this one allegedly in Brazil. It doesn't happen quite as much, but it has happened quite a bit. And to a lesser extent, because it's sort of in a different genre of close encounters, I suppose. It depends on really who you talk to about it. And that, of course, is the idea of crop circles, which are allegedly created by aliens or UFOs. But that's, I guess, technically it falls into the close encounters of the second kind. But more times than not, people don't see the UFO. They just see the after effect of the crop circle that apparently appears out of nowhere. And I know there's a couple of videos out there, one dating all the way back to the 90s, of an alleged UFO creating a crop circle on the spot. But at least the one in the 90s has been thoroughly debunked as being created by somebody. So today it's so much easier to do that with computer programs and movie making software at the tip of our fingers. So who knows what is and isn't real anymore. But as far as close encounters of the second kind, the marks in the grass are by far the most prevalent of the claims that people say that the UFO left a calling card or left evidence around that it actually landed. Occasionally, you get the struts pictures from certain cases. I know there were cases in the 1960s that had measured landing struts from a UFO landing, and it's not uncommon. It's just lesser common than the marks that you see in grasses, like you see here in this picture, and like the one in Rendlesham Forest, like I showed you before. And then there's other cases that people have stated that UFOs kind of sort of rain down some kind of almost glittery pyrotechnics that landed at their feet or in their trees and whatnot. And I know studies have been done on cases like that, and there's no discernible evidence picked up by the study that anything fell out of a UFO. And then there's cases going all the way back to the late 1940s that slag had fallen out of a alleged flying saucer that was on fire and landed in a man's boat in Washington state and actually allegedly killed his dog who was in the boat with him when one of the hunks of slag hit his dog. So there are cases of the second kind, but I thought that I would kind of take it in a different route. A case that is a close encounters of the second kind, but it kind of goes off on a little bit of a different twist from like the picture that you're seeing here. It is more of a what happened to the people after they experienced the UFO.